Hey everyone, Tekk here. Welcome to Tekk's Tavern. Grab a brew, pull up a chair, and let's sorta do a Tekk's pub games. And it's a little bit different this week. If you caught Nytrok's video already, you kind of have an idea what's going on. We weren't able to coordinate this week due to a few reasons. One, we didn't have a very suitable game lined up. And number two, our schedules kind of conflicted this week. We're kind of in different time zones. Actually, Nytrox lives in Canada, I live in Florida, so sometimes it's hard for us to kind of get on the same page. But we did make it through, what, 9 weeks, hitting it perfect. So this one week we decided to do something a little different and just kind of do a solo video, just kind of an update on the series and showing some gameplay in the background of a different game. On my video here, you're seeing the AI War Fleet Command in the background. This is a game I just picked up recently as it was on sale on Steam for like $5, or actually it was like $4.24 for the main game and like 3 of the DLCs, I believe. And it's a game I'd always looked at and was always interested in. I'd always heard a lot of things about it being like super complicated, and that was something that kind of scared me away a little bit to a certain degree. But I decided to go ahead and give it a try at such a cheap price. And I will say that it took me a good, probably at least 2 hours of watching a few other videos and reading the instruction manual and the PDF and going through the in-game tutorials before I really got a grasp of kind of what was going on. And even after that, I still at this point don't feel that I'm 100% I got the basics. I got enough to understand it. And it's a very unique game, actually, because, and I know some of the stuff you're watching in the background probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. During this period here, what I was doing was I'm already colonized 3 planets there. The kind of the blue ones you see, that top one there, and then 2 over to the left. And then I was trying to, I think, amass some forces and take out an alien AI planet down to the right. And so you're kind of seeing me going around. That right there is a portal, and you can see there's like tower defense elements to the game where you actually like set up turrets and things around the different like wormhole, the portals, the jump gates kind of between the different systems. And so that's one way. It has a little bit of a tower defense thing going on, but it also has a little bit, very much of a real-time strategy game. I would almost compare it a little bit to, like, say, a Supreme Commander, because it has, the super high zoom levels, and you're playing with a whole lot of units. So it's got some neat things going on, but it's very complicated. The UI is not quite as intuitive as maybe I would like. But like I said, after you play it for a little while, you start to get a feel for it. The one thing that I think has got me on it right now is that there's so many different types of units and things that you can use. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. It's like, I know the basics. I know, the research satellite, and I know the dock, the shipyard dock, and I know the different types of units you have, and I know how to queue them and keep them going. But I haven't gone so far as to figure out, this kind of unit is much better than this kind of unit, or this kind of unit is awesome counter to this kind of unit. And I guess that's where the real depth in the game comes, is when you start seeing what the AI, like what kind of units they're using, then you try to get units of a nature that can counter. And so that's when you start really getting deep into the game. But it has some really neat elements, and probably the one thing about it is, and it goes along with the name AI War, one of the things that, if you're not familiar with this game, that's kind of the hook of the game, and here you can see me pumping out a whole bunch of units. Look at that stream of steady units that I'm producing there. I'm making basically a little death stack to send over to attack this one system. But the AI War name of the game kind of contributes to how this game is unique, because unlike most real-time strategy games, the AI, it's not asynchronous to a certain degree to where you and the AI are starting out the same way. At least that's my understanding. You start out with one planet, your main base, a shipyard, a couple of engineers, and that's how you start. The AI does not start that way. The AI is much more powerful, has much more units, and they're doing other things. They're not really concerned with you at the beginning of the game. You're just kind of a little nuisance out there. And they're got their own agenda, and they're doing their own things, and, eradicating other species or whatever AI typically does. And what happens is then, as you do things, you have to be careful. I explained this to a friend of mine the other day. I said, this is kind of a conquest through moderation type game, because if you try to expand too quickly and attack too many systems, the AI then starts to notice you and then will turn around and basically stomp you out. So you have to kind of moderate and be tactical about, okay, you know, this planet and this planet is not worth me getting the AI pissed off about. So I'm not going to mess with these planets. You know, there's no good resources there. You know, I don't need to, you know, get the AI aware of me. But this planet here has some really great resources, and as a, you know, critical choke point, I need to get this one. And so then you go and you attack this one, and the AI threat goes up a little bit. They kind of take notice of you. You might have to fight some waves off in a counter attack. But it's a very unique setup for an RTS game. It's very unique. I mean, it has some very different elements going on. You know, it's not a 4X game because there's not really, you know, there's not really any diplomacy going on or special events or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's pure RTS, but much different. I mean, it's not like StarCraft at all, as you can tell by looking at these screens and all these crazy buttons all over the place. And you know, you can see me doing weird lines, and like the biggest thing is learning some of the shortcuts in the game, because there's a lot of little crazy shortcuts. Like you can put guys on free roam mode in a sector, and you may see me do that when I click on guys. See, like they have like a pink highlight around them. If you hold V as in Victor down and then like right click on the units, it puts them in free roam mode, so they will basically free roam and attack anything that comes into that sector, into that planet, and they'll just automate and do it on their own. And then, you know, like there's group move mode, so you hold G down and right click on a highlighted amount of units, and then they will all match speed to the slowest unit and move together. So there's a lot of little like weird shortcuts like that you have to learn and get down to really kind of, you know, start to get the feel for the game. And like other things I haven't learned with the game yet is I've noticed I've started hitting, even though I have a crap ton of resources, like you can see up there at the top. And this is a game I'm about up there in the top left. You can see about an hour or so in, and I'm maxed out on resources up there, like 999,000 of metal and crystal and all. And yet I'm limited on how many ships I can build, and I guess that's something I missed in the tutorial, because I think even in this video I start looking and I realize I can't build any more ships of certain types because I think I'm at the max amount of units for that type. And I don't really know where that comes into play or where you can see that. I mean, I guess you can see it right there on the build menu, but I don't know. There's little things like that I'm still, you know, as I go along, all of a sudden something happens. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that doesn't work that way. So, but it's an interesting game, and I encourage you guys to check it out if you get a chance to pick it up for cheap or something, or maybe if it's a game that you bought and you just never, you know, you bought it for cheap on a sale like I did, but you haven't played it yet. It's very interesting, and there's, you know, there's some videos and things out there you can find. Actually, I mean, well, I'll correct that. I'm almost tempted, if I play this game a little bit more, I'm almost tempted to do my own little like 2-episode tutorial series, because actually when I searched out there for tutorials on it, there was about 2 of them from a couple guys that were terrible. I mean, the guys, I don't even know why they were calling them tutorials, because they were just awful. One I literally fell asleep on, and then there was another, there was one tutorial that was okay from a guy, and it was okay, and I think he did it over 3 episodes. He did like a basics, intermediate, and advanced videos, and they were okay. I mean, they didn't. He answered questions that maybe you wouldn't have had, and you say, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And then questions that you have, he doesn't answer. So he doesn't really hit the clean points that you need to know. But it was still good enough to get me going. The combination of that, the in-game tutorial, and reading the manual, between those 3 things, I was able to kind of get up to speed and understand what was going on a little bit. So anyway, that is it for this episode. Nytrox and I will try to be back to a normal Pub Games episode next week. And we have a couple plans, and there's some neat games coming up. A couple Paradox games are coming up. I know that Empire game is one we may do a video on. I may do some videos on that new strategy game also coming up from Paradox, the March of the Eagles, I think it's called, which is kind of it's using the CK2 engine, so to speak, in UI for the most part, but it's geared during the Napoleonic era, and it's a much more war-focused game than, say, CK2. And so I'm considering I may do, maybe once I get a hold of it, you know, crash on it real hard for a day or 2, maybe put up a little tutorial and maybe, you know, do something on that. So we'll see. But those are a couple games I'm looking at for videos coming up soon. So keep an eye out for those. I will also have some other videos coming up very soon for my series. Game of Dwarves will probably be coming up directly after this, and then most likely after that, another CK2 and another Master of Orion 2. So those are kind of the priorities right now. My internet situation has gotten sorted out some, so that is resolved to a certain degree, although it's not perfect, but it is better, so hopefully I should be able to get back up to speed here. So that is it for this week. Thank you everyone for checking out my videos. Please make sure to like if you want to see more in any of the series, and feel free to leave your comments. I'll try to get back to as many of you as I can, and I will see you next time in the pub games.